This is the dawning of the age of steel.
Did you literally just steal my joke?
I didn't realise that's what you were singing for.
Oh my, yeah, it was. You stole my joke.
Well,
joke thief.
The joke toad.
But you know what? I'll share my joke with you.
Why do they call me the joke toad? Can you remember?
Because. No, I don't.
My neck.
What?
There was a recurring segment on CBBC Presentation when I used to work there, where Hacker would call me the joke toad, in reference to a show called The Joke Machine. I said, "Why'd you call me the joke toad?" We just improved it in a 10-second live link.
Right.
What about the joke toad? He went, "Your neck, Chris. Because of your neck."
Why? What does that mean?
So like a toad, toads blow up their necks and make them big.
Yeah.
It's a double chin joke, essentially.
Oh, what?
And then for months after, Phil, Hacker's agent, would say, "Yeah, joke toad," and he'd put more emphasis on my neck, which led to brilliant stuff like me stuffing that helicopter in my neck and things like that.
What a butt!
Did you not know that?
No,
Did you not know that the
idea.
whole neck thing came from double chin jokes?
No!
Well, there you go.
Oh, I feel very differently about it.
Well, I love it. I think it's funny.
Well,
It's at my expense, and I enjoy it. So there. Anyway, speaking of at our expense, welcome to Doctor Review. Anyone is confused as to what's happening? Why can't we see you? This is a podcast, but we have it on camera because sometimes it's nice to gesture. I'm Chris.
I'm not Chris. Sorry.
Minnie the dog's walking around. You probably noticed. Not Chris is eating.
Mellow. Mellow?
Mellow? Melon.
Melon and mango, and I've just combined them.
Mellow. We are on part 2 of the 2006 series of Drew. And we're talking specifically about The Girl in the Fireplace, Rise of the Cybermen, and the Age of Steel. So, I don't know about you.
Yeah.
I just don't know about you. Great, Minnie. Thank you for your input.
I love your input. That's
I really
very
hope at least one
interesting.
person watching has a pet that's going crazy right now.
You pick your moments. You've been asleep all morning, day. Oh, it's 4 o'clock.
Yeah. I don't know about you. I'm starting to feel nostalgic for this now. And it's making me have to concentrate doubly to just watch it objectively. Because I feel like Series 1 of the modern run is my favourite Doctor Who ever. Like, having watched as much Doctor Who as possible over all the last, over the 30 years on this planet, and having, obviously, the last couple of years of binged the whole thing.
Yeah.
Series 1's still my favourite.
Yeah.
I don't
think that'll ever change.
I think Series 2 is comfort food.
Yeah.
Because I'm getting the warm fuzzies from these stories. So let's ruddy get into it, shall we, thens? Min will contribute every now and again with a squeak or a squeak.
Squeaky squeak.
Go in the Fireplace! The Doctor, Rose, and Mickey, who's not a tin dog, show up on a spaceship that is crewless, but still functioning. There are weird smells. It smells like
someone's cooking.
It smells like someone's cooking a Sunday roast or a barbecue. And for some reason, around the ship are various portals to France in the past, specifically Versailles.
Yes, Versailles. Yeah.
Let me just.
And in each portal is a different time period of one specific person's life.
Yep. Specifically, Jean Antoinette Poisson, a.k.a. Renette, a.k.a. the eventual Madame de Pompadour.
Madame de Pompadour.
Mistress of King Louis XV. Fantastic gardener! And yeah, essentially...
Isn't that crazy?
Essentially...
They would have a wife.
Yeah.
And an official mistress.
And an official bit on the side.
Who they probably love more than their wife. Because they'd have been made to marry a person.
Yeah.
For, like, connections.
Of course, because it was around that time, wasn't it? Yeah. But then again, we're thinking of that from the point of view of, like, the wife feeling upset about that.
She probably had her own.
But she probably didn't give a crap anyway, because it was just part of the thing. And it would be a bonus if the wedded got on. Like, if they got on, then great.
I reckon that would have been, like, really weird.
Of course it would have been weird. But then again, like, I guess it's...
I'm sure it happened.
Old school French version of polyamory? I don't know.
I don't know. It was very weird, wasn't it?
They're French. So, yeah, these various portals, like one's a fireplace, one's a tapestry, like, they all...
One's a mirror.
One's a mirror, one's somewhere in the gardens of one of the estates. They all lead to...
It implies it's like a plant pot.
Yeah. It's very old school Master's TARDIS sort of thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just like he just steps out from behind a plant.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, I guess it's back there then.
We're just going to go with this.
Yeah, although the deleted scene implies that maybe it was the stable.
Oh,
Or nearby, because
Yeah.
the deleted scene explains where the horse came from and why the Doctor doesn't mind it sticking around, because the guy who looks after the horses is a bit of a dick.
Wasn't he going to kill it?
He was going to flog it for running off.
Like,
So that's why the Doctor comes back and is just like, right, fine, you can stick around. Because if the horse is on the spaceship, at least
No
it's
wonder.
not being randomly whipped. So, yeah, they're all showing up at different places in France, but specifically at different parts of Renette's life. The Doctor first meets her via the fireplace.
Mhm.
Hence the girl
Look
at
at
the
the
fireplace.
fireplace.
At the beginning, and every time he goes through, time's sort of moving differently to them, like, because they're basically the ship. The only thing the ship is currently doing is using all of its energy to open up these portals in time, which is obviously serious business and dangerous and needs to be closed. But the Doctor's trying to figure out why and why they're all following Renette. What could be 2 minutes on the ship is like 3-4 years or more in the past.
It's like 7 years.
Yeah, via the door. So he's having to do a lot of mental arithmetic to figure out at what point they need to emerge and when, and from which door and whatnot. Renette kind of develops a thing for the Doctor. Well, I suppose you would if when you were a preteen, a handsome man appears from your fireplace.
In your bedroom, of all places.
Yeah, and saves you from a monster, and then you dream about him returning every year. Like, for years, you would, I guess, get a bit, like, oh, I hope that handsome man shot. And as you get older, you're like, ooh, I understand what attraction is now. I hope that very handsome man returns.
I thought it was really cute because she says, she says, I thought one's imaginary friends were supposed to disappear.
Yeah, when
as a child.
Older. Yeah, when you're no longer a child,
Or
it's
something like that.
Oh shoot!
And it was like, oh, that's really cute that she doesn't think it's real. Like it's he's an imaginary friend, but oh my god, he's here in front of her. I'm gonna kiss him.
Yeah, fair enough. Like,
I mean, no, what? No.
Look, they didn't have iPhones. Okay.
Probably best.
They didn't have iPhones, and they were completely fine with royals having official mistresses, so sure, let her snog the handsome man who she's dreamt of ever since she was a preteen. Sure. Like, think of that poster you would have on the wall when you're a teenager, of, like, a musician or an actor.
I had a poster of Dobby.
Okay, forget Dobby. Don't elf shame. The point is...
Do you know who I had a poster of? Oh my god, I just remembered.
Oh, Jesus, go on. Go on.
Vin Diesel in Triple X.
Yes, you told me about that.
Oh no!
Right, so
what was I thinking?
Vin Diesel appears
no!
in your bedroom.
No,
Okay.
I'm saying, oh my god, get out with the hell are you?
So what's interesting here is some of the things we've mentioned already
Vin Diesel.
sound very familiar if you know Doctor Who.
Oh, that's funny.
For example, Doctor meets girl and saves her from a monster, or they investigate a thing when she's young, and then she thinks about him for years, and he comes back when she's older, and he's her imaginary friend, and no one believes her.
Yeah.
This is the story of Amy in 3 series time.
Sure is.
They find the monster in the room that ticks because there's a broken clock in the room not working, but there's still a ticking. Kind of like last series, where the recorder stops actually playing, the tape stops, but you can still hear the empty child talking and asking for its mummy, because it's in the room with them.
Look at that.
Stephen Moffat wrote this episode.
Surprise, surprise.
It is a fantastic episode, but much like The Curse of Fatal Death, it's weird to know what's coming.
Yeah.
Because you can see everything being either trial run or unconsciously already done in the earlier stories.
Let's just say he likes to recycle.
Yeah, which is not always a bad thing, but it's just odd when it stands out.
Lazy.
Well, Well, to hear it's the first time. Except for the clock thing, which is the second time. Point is...
God damn it.
We can't say, oh, Stephen Moffat, come on, mate, what are you doing with this? Because it's not his story. He wrote it, but it wasn't his story. The story is Russell T Davies' story.
Because he's a gem.
Showrunner capacity. No, right, that was so hypocritical.
Well...
Like, God damn it, it just keeps recycling stuff. Oh, well, Russell, it's fine. Well, here's the thing.
Yeah, it is fine.
Here's the thing. Russell conceived the idea for this, according to these notes, while doing research for Casanova.
Oh, that is very obvious.
Described the episode as a love story for the show's protagonist. Which it is, because the Doctor does find himself quite smitten. And the reason people like even register Madame de Pompadour in terms of like history and that as a figure of interest is because she was like a great intellectual. She was like seen essentially as... I guess as far as the socialite nature of it all, she was basically a rock star.
Yeah.
Like, people were like, oh, she's amazing. People talk about how gorgeous she is and how brilliant. Like, the garden's completely designed by her. Like, she's learned, she's musical, do you know what I mean? She's all these things. So basically it was like, yeah, she's awesome. So even the Doctor, like, when she kisses him and that guy's like, who the hell are you? It's like, I'm the Doctor and I just snogged Madame de Pompadour. And he is sort of like, wow! Check me out! This is the Doctor... This is the first Doctor since the fourth one who does get real name-droppy as well as it goes on. So you can imagine him being like, yeah, it's not just like, I saw Madame de Pompadour, like, she snogged me. This is pretty cool. And he's also a big romantic. We've discussed before how he's the space boyfriend.
Oops.
So... It doesn't... Them developing feelings for each other doesn't feel forced. It's very much like he's romantically curious here, but she is full-on smitten.
Yeah.
She's not dedicating her life to him, but it's like he's like I guess her crush.
Yeah. Who
doesn't quite ever leave the room because he's always in her mind.
Yeah.
And could always just show up. And also she's indebted to him. She he saved her life, so there's that element of they shared something that doesn't often happen.
Yeah.
So, it plays nicely because Rose in this episode is mostly off on her own, investigating and instigating dangerous situations for her and Mickey to get involved in.
Well, I think she's kind of...
But she does get a bit jealous, but she sort of sees it and she respects what's happening.
Yeah.
That it's not like the last episode where she's being really snippy at Sarah Jane for most of it. Like, at this point, she can kind of see the tragedy of it all.
Yeah.
And she doesn't...
get involved.
Yeah, but Billie Piper, without it being in the script, as far as we're aware, Billie Piper really does play up that kind of mixed emotion that Rose is going through.
And it's not surprising because Billie Piper is a fantastic actress. She is amazing. But, oh God, it's just incredible how much emotion she can portray on her face so you know exactly how she's feeling.
She's also...
She doesn't have to say anything.
After school reunion, she's also very grateful for having the Doctor in her life. Because she can she's seen through Sarah Jane what happens when it just stops. So when Renette is really, when you have that scene, I think it's kind of genius that Rose is the one who goes ahead to talk to her before the final encounter, not the Doctor. Mm-hmm. When you have that moment, Rose respects the fact that Renette is getting even less of him than Rose is. So she's, I think, do you know what I mean? She's very much like, and it's not a case of her being like, oh, you don't get to spend time with my space boyfriend. It's more, this amazing man who has like opened up the universe to me has done the same to her, and she doesn't get to experience it on her terms at all. So she kind of respects the feeling. Also, Mickey charging headfirst in, like just really going for it. Noel Clarke is great in this episode.
He really is.
He's so fun in this one. Especially like his little shriek when the camera comes closer. It's bloody funny, where it just like zooms in and you go, it's like, that's so good.
It is.
Let's talk about the episode's baddies.
I've got to say, this is, as much as I was just like disliking Stephen Moffat for reasons, this is one of my favourite episodes because I think it's just stunning, and it is as if it's a PG version of Casanova in a way. If you've not watched Casanova, what are you waiting for?
Consider this, you love your wife. I love your wife. We're on the same side.
Casanova jumps over the roof.
It's so
brilliant.
good!
It's really good.
If you've never seen it, it's by Russell T Davies. It's basically the series that made him realise, like, yeah, David's next. Like, if he wants it, it's his.
And it's a little bit saucy.
It's a little bit saucy. It's got a load of people from this era and from these production people and casting, like, loads of actors, like, bloody Annette Badlands in it. And, like, so many of them rock up.
Just fabulous. It's amazing. But,
it is brill. And Peter O'Toole being phenomenal as
Peter O'Toole. So I love Casanova. And I love this episode.
Sort of a snippet of that style. And,
I can't resist like a historical. This is as close to a historical as I'm going to get for a while.
What do you mean? There's quite a few coming up. You mean in terms of the periods in history where you're like, oh, I'd like to do more stories. I'd like to see more there.
Yeah.
Because I guess the last time, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, I probably will be. There's probably something from the Fifth Doctor's era I'm forgetting. But the last time we were sort of in this era was like the Reign of Terror, like Hartnell's first bloody series, the one set in France around the start of the French Revolution.
Yeah, we didn't even get to see most of it. So.
Yeah, but like that was sort of the last time we hit this period specifically, and this is sort of on the cusp of that, like it's on its way.
And,
so it's
this era is just like so fascinating and just so beautiful and mental. Don't get me wrong, but I don't know, just the costumes, the music,
which extends to, of course, the villains.
The villain. Oh my god.
How they look.
One of my, hands down, one of my favourite villains. Because they're so creepy, but they don't even do much. Yeah.
Oh, well, that's the thing. Yeah, so the ship itself is run by these droids, which essentially so that they can never run out of power. Like, they can still die, but they're not relying on an energy source. And I think it's implied as well in the story that they've adapted to do this since the crew went away.
Yeah.
They're clockwork. They're clockwork droids. Mm-hmm. So all they need to do, obviously, is be wound up to continue working.
Yeah.
They're, like, glass encased with all these gold and silver gears and pulleys and cogs and everything.
Oh, amazing.
And they are trying to... Their mission, essentially, is to keep the ship going. We learn during the story that the smell of rotting or cooking meats and the camera with an eye in it, and at one point Rose and Mickey find a heart powering part of the ship,
with all
like
wires
stuck into
and
wires and everything. To keep the ship going was their main mission, and when obviously everything got stuck or they ended up too far away from help, they needed an energy source to help the ship keep going. So they needed
parts.
They needed the parts. So we did not have the parts. We did not have the parts. Their voices as well. The fact it's just sort of a human voice with a slight filter.
Yeah.
Is really disturbing.
Yeah.
So they use the crew. That's what's happening. Like the furnace is, sort of it's cooking flesh, and the cameras have eyeballs in them, optic nerves.
I mean, don't get me wrong. It's very, economical.
Oh my god!
You
can tell you're a cat. You can tell you're a cat person. Look, I die in the house, right? Of course they're going to eat me. It's fine.
Of course that's fine. Why would that not be fine?
Great. So when your family find you, and you're like,
well, yeah, that's not great, but
yeah. So there you go.
If they're hungry, feel free. Well, I'm not going to mind.
If they're hungry, they should open up a tin. Or a sachet of whiskers.
They will eat your eyeballs first, and like your ears and your nose.
Great, so...
and your lips.
Okay, so...
sorry, I know far too much about that.
Ask a mortician, it's all her fault. Anyway, the point is...
Queen! Anyway.
She is amazing. But anyway, the point is... Look her up on YouTube after this video. But
She's
the point
released a new video.
Yeah, but this is going out in like 6 months.
Oh, yeah.
So.
I'm sure she's released a new video recently.
Oh, dear. Oh, dear, oh, dear. So... they disguise themselves in, as you can see from the figure down there, like period costumes, and they're wearing these masks which look very much like an ornamental thing that probably would have existed on a mantle.
Well, yeah,
or in a theatre's like archway or something. They've got the big bloody wigs.
In Italy specifically, those masks are like for festivals and. That's where they came from.
And when they rock up sort of in the ball at the end, like, they look like they could be part of it in some way. So except for the fact they're marching around with big clockwork blades sticking out of their arms. They're great, because you don't see what the function of them being clockwork is at all.
Yeah.
But they just look creepy. And the fact that they have a blade concealed in their arm. Oh, that's probably why you love this episode. You're a massive Assassin's Creed fan.
It is a bit Assassin's Creedy, isn't it?
A little bitty. Except the Assassin's Creed game set during the French Revolution is shite!
I can confirm that is correct.
And glitchy as hell. And they barely fixed it, because by the time they could have done that, the next one was out.
At least they gave faces in the end.
Did they? Did they?
Yes.
Tennant and Sophia Miles, I think, deserve the main kudos for this one. They do an incredible job.
Yeah, they do.
Maybe the chemistry has something to do with the fact that they either were together or just got together after this at the time. But hey, it delivered a fantastic performance that will last because you believe that they have a connection.
Yeah.
I love the rotating fireplace, the whole smashing through the mirror. Visually has aged a little, but it then is immediately made up for by the cheesy wink close-up
Absolutely,
shot.
I was just going to say that. That is amazing. He's so suave. Her saviour riding in on a white horse does that fucking wink. Just spectacularly, so goofy.
This is the second time in the series as well that they tease the notion that the Doctor might be stuck and have to just settle somewhere. Ooh. Because they do it in... it's the first time in the series, because they do it in the next story when they realise that the TARDIS might be dead forever.
Yeah.
And then they do it in Impossible Planet Satan Pit later in the series, which we'll get to. The idea of them settling down, getting a house and getting a mortgage and just having to live. It's a recurring theme throughout the series, and I think it's done brilliantly because it's sowing the seed of the idea that in this show, one of the biggest fears that our protagonist or protagonists have is stopping this life. Mm-hmm. Like this adventurous travelling anywhere life is taken from them forcefully. Yeah. Yeah. I wonder if that'll come around to being in anyone's story arc this series by the end of the series, maybe. So it's great. Again, like series one, just the whole... The Ninth Doctor never is the one to pull the trigger, or someone else always does it. Like, there's all these little subtle things that weave into where the end of the series is going to go. And it's beautifully, beautifully done. I can't remember if there's a Torchwood mention in this episode. There probably is somewhere.
Would there be?
I'm sure there was. I think, that was it. I think it was in the deleted scene, like as Renette and her friend are gossiping, walking away. There's like one of them mentions Torchwood something, because of course, like time-wise, that doesn't make much sense. But it, like Bad Wolf, Torchwood just keeps popping up.
Yeah. Throughout
the thingy, so maybe I'm imagining that. I can't remember. But what I can remember is this is a ton of fun. Him getting there the last time, because he just sort of decides, sod it. Like when he finds out that he can get back, and it's all because she had the same fireplace brought from her original home, brick by brick. When he finds out he can get back, the fact that he's like, right, screw history, she's coming with us, is wonderful.
Pick a star.
Go out the window, pick a star, any star. And then, of course, by the time he gets back round, it's been another few months, and she's grown ill.
No, it's been a few years.
It was a few years by that point. And
I think it was like 7 years or 4 years or something.
She's grown ill and passed away in that time. Because you get the whole thing of the King Louis there, and he's like, she's on her way to Paris. And you think, like, oh, right.
Something like she was 37 or something?
She was not particularly old.
Which would have been 7 years
after. 7 years have passed and she has died. Because the clockwork droids they want her brain, and they wait to take her. That's ultimately why they're following her. They want her brain, and they're waiting until she is ready, and when she's 30, she's ready, and they come for it. And then 37, she's passed away. She left a letter for the Doctor, where basically she says like she's hoping he comes back soon. But she doesn't fear she doesn't have long left. So it's a bittersweet ending, and then it's the whole ending of like they've defeated the clockwork droids. Renette wasn't dissected for whatever their plans were, but the episode ends with them not knowing what the hell the plan was about, and why it was her. Why burn up a star and do all this to time travel and find Renette? And they call it a day, and the TARDIS dematerializes. As the viewer is left to see the portrait of Madame de Pompadour on the wall inside the ship. And then the insignia on the outside of the ship, the SS Madame de Pompadour. So, there is literally no reason it's her other than the logic
The
of
fact
the
that it was named
robots.
after.
Like we need power. She must be the power. So that's kind of eerie and a bit fairy tale-y. One thing that does get introduced in this is Stephen Moffat introducing a very fairy tale-y quality to it, which I appreciate a lot because then Series 5, that is the entire aesthetic of Series 5. It's a fairy tale.
Yeah.
And it works so well in that series for that year and the story of Amy. So I don't mind that the trope being born here of person obsessing with the Doctor from a young age and it leading into imaginary friend and fascination, romance and stuff, because it turns out this was a trial run for something we get 4 and a bit years later.
Yeah.
So fair enough. Fair enough. I love how Lou is not a huge Steve Moffat fan of his era, but she's not seen it all, so that's going to be interesting later on down the line. But one of your favourite episodes of Doctor Who is one of his. So I think that says a lot about the fact that, despite your reservations with him, he's obviously very talented.
He
and
is.
Can deliver some brilliant material.
It was something that happened, which I shan't talk about. That makes me really not like him.
Which one?
At the convention.
Can't remember now. It'll come to me. But anyway, the point is...
It wasn't like
yeah,
personal.
God, yeah. Everyone's like, wait, what's happening?
No, it wasn't something personal.
It's very much like a...
It was his demeanour, shall I say.
Yeah.
But anyway...
you were just biased because you also met someone else at a convention who was bloody lovely in that same circle. It completely made you biased toward them as well.
I met a few people. Who are you implying?
Wait, was it the celebration you met him?
Yeah.
I don't know. Oh, okay.
I didn't meet him.
Maybe you saw him, did you? I don't remember seeing him.
I walked past him and just heard what he was saying, so...
Oh, okay. Was he saying...
I won't say any more about it.
Was he saying, I really hope that Lucy Brennan is fucking not here. I can't stand the way she doesn't like my reasons, tough guy.
That's exactly what he said. No, I feel like I have to explain myself now. No, it was the way he was speaking to fans, which I found really disrespectful, and I thought he was very up his own arse. So, I don't appreciate him for that.
She's just saying that because he never wrote Girl in the Fireplace 2. Electric Boogaloo.
Still waiting.
Clockwork Boogaloo!
No.
There we go.
Yeah, I mean, some of the choices he made later on in Doctor Who.
And some of them you've not even seen yet, so it's going to be interesting to see your reaction.
Well, the ones I have seen, is very... Oh, but we'll talk about that when we get to it. So, yeah, it was nothing personal. I feel like I really had to explain myself.
Daily Mail article incoming.
I know,
anyway,
no, that's exactly what it's... Nobody cares.
Do you know what we do care about? The Cybermen. Next story. Something goes horribly wrong. The TARDIS bloody dies. And possibly is lost in the vortex forever, but turns out it's actually back in London. As Mickey so confidently reveals, strolling out the TARDIS, pulling a newspaper out the bin, confirming that it's the correct year, so whatever year he was in, which at this point would be 2007?
Oh my God.
2006 is the series, but during the Russell era, it's always roughly 1 year ahead in the timeline of the Earth characters, roughly, based on Christmas events and things like that.
Yeah.
So, it all started because of the Rose going missing for 12 months in Series 1. That skips it from 2005 to 2006.
Yeah.
From that point, yeah. Well, it's not Earth, but it is. It's a parallel Earth. A twin Earth, you could say. In another dimension. Twerth. No.
You might say.
And I shan't say. Ooh, excuse me.
Oh, excuse me.
See, I'm imperfect. I need to be upgraded. The point is, they arrive here. There are blimps in the air. People communicate / get all their news through downloads of these earpods. Essentially, very topical for 2006 because they're all basically wearing Bluetooth earpieces.
Yeah.
Which is still a thing, but in the mid-2000s, for all you young'uns, Bluetooth was sort of starting to become a thing in the mid-2000s.
It was the coolest thing ever. That you could just push a button on your earpiece and speak to somebody.
Yeah, and that was essentially its main function, for people to be able to use the phone when driving, hands-free, which people then regressed into forgetting that they could do for years, which is really annoying. Which, of course, then led to actual laws being drawn up.
Exactly.
That people break all the time. So yeah, this was kind of on point for the time. The idea of having two little earpods that not only connected to your mobile but also to the news, weather updates, downloading the Daily Joke.
Daily Joke, yeah.
That's
That's horrifying.
Day.
Imagine if you'd like forgotten to put your earpiece in that morning and you were just walking to work, busy commute on a tube, and suddenly everybody goes silent and just suddenly goes.
Well, we get to see that.
I would pee.
Because the doctor and Rose are in the middle of the street when it happens. It's
but
terrifying.
no, just think in like close confinement, or you're in a bathroom or something, and the person next to you is just starts laughing their head off. Oh, that's horrifying. What a terrifying future that would be.
Great. We've not even got to the mutated robot suits with human brains in.
Oh
so,
yeah, that as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but more importantly, Pete Tyler is alive. Pete Tyler is alive and well, as Sean Dingwall reprising the role, being brilliant, but obviously getting to play a different Pete from Father's Day, which is cool. Like, this is an older Pete who's lived a life and become successful. Is married to Jackie, but they're getting divorced on the quiet for public image sake, because he's the head of like a big sort of food and drink company, and he's effectively he's the Colonel Sanders of pop. Basically, isn't he? That's sort of what he is.
Yeah.
And it all started from his humble beginnings that happened in our world, like, trading, wheeler dealing and stuff. And it's essentially he's living Del Boy's dream. Like, it's happened. He's huge, and it all came from just like basic trading and doing deals and selling cheap tat. And he's still selling cheap tat, but expensive cheap tat. Because he's not a prime minister, he's the president. Played by Don Warrington, the wonderful Don Warrington. He's like, it just tastes like cheap pop. He's like, it is cheap pop. He's like, right, okay. He's like, I see what kind of man you are. There's more going on with Pete, but we find that out later.
It reminded me of Panda Pop.
That's what I think of. Yeah,
do you remember?
Trust me on this.
Is that a thing still?
Probably, I don't know. But yeah, so Pete and Jackie getting divorced on the quiet, but it's Jackie's 39th birthday. They're having a big do at the house, and all these important people are going to be coming. Included in the invites, alongside the president, is John Lumick, played by Roger Lloyd Pack, the late great Roger Lloyd Pack. John Lumick is an inventor. He's effectively, Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, all these people combined. But his body is dying. He's unwell. His brain is yet to deteriorate, but that's his biggest fear, because he believes that the brain is the only true gift that mankind can give to each other, is their ideas, their imagination, their inventions. Wonderful, hopeful idea, right? So he's like, I want to preserve life. Starting with my own, I want to find a way to preserve life and keep the brain going. Problem is, dude's supervillain levels of crazy at this point.
I mean, come on, there are blimps in the sky. Not blimps, what are they called? Zeppelins.
Yeah.
In the sky. If that doesn't shout, evil villain!
Yeah. I mean, his is the biggest one as well.
I don't know what would.
His company, Cybermen Industries, is providing XYZ, but behind the scenes is working on a new way of keeping the mind alive, even if the body dies. And he's got his henchman. What's his bloody name? I'm pulling up the cast.
I don't know, but he's great.
Mr. Crane.
He reminds me of, I don't know.
Mr. Crane, who's made it onto the Wikipedia list of Doctor Who henchmen as well. Which
nice.
Well,
I'd say he's pretty up there with the henchmen.
Well, in part 1. Part 2, he makes a weird choice that comes the feck out of nowhere.
There must be a deleted scene or something somewhere.
There wasn't on the disc. There was only well, we'll get to it. But played by Colin Spall, who's a lot of fun. Their dynamic, they're not the same, but they reminded me of What's-His-Face from The Invasion. Oh, God, what's he called? I'll have to pull him up. The fellow who was secretly leading the Cybermen invasion to Tobias Vaughan. That was his name, wasn't it?
I don't know.
Do you remember who I'm talking about?
No.
The white-haired businessman guy who sort of looked like a slimier Mike Pence.
No, I don't. Oh, yes, I do!
Yeah.
Oh, yeah!
Yeah, let me pull him up. There he is.
Pull him up.
That guy.
Yes.
Yeah. And all that stuff going, all the dodgy dealings and it all being behind the back of the front that was his company and what they were up to. And he also had that henchman who was the head of his guard, he was a bit of a dimwit, but he was like really aggressive. And do you know what I mean? So this was kind of like that. He had Lumic is the brilliant aging businessman and tech mogul who's up to no good, and he has a henchman who's doing all the dirty work and setting things up for this eventual. They don't think of it this way, but invasion.
Yeah.
And they're gathering homeless people up in these trucks and taking them away to be part of these experiments to become human. Human 0.2 or human 2.0. Also, whilst we're in this parallel universe, Mickey, who I love the scene where Rose is like, "I'm going to go and see them." She finds out about the Jackie party. She's like, "I'm going to see them," and the Doctor's like, "Don't you dare!" Because they've found a way to get home. There's a light in the TARDIS. Part of the TARDIS has managed to hold desperately onto a bit of energy, and it's this one tiny little plug like in the grates in the floor. And the Doctor like gives it a bit of regeneration energy. It gives it 10 years of his life. 10 years of his life,
yeah.
And so in 24 hours it will charge up. The TARDIS will be ready to leave, and they can get the hell out of here because they're not supposed to be here. The Time Lord, when the Time Lords are around, hop dimensions and be back in time for tea. But like without them here, nothing. It's not like anyone's going to help us. No one can find us. We are screwed. But now that they've got 24 hours, Rose is like, "I'm going to the party."
Yeah.
And Mickey's like, "I'm going to have a look around." And the Doctor's basically telling both to stay there and like don't go anywhere. And Mickey, quite rightly, is like, "Well, you're not going to stop me, are you? It's not me you're going to go with. Like, let's face it." Which is, like, again, no one's really like he's not causing drama. He's just stating the obvious.
Yeah. And
you can see that the Doctor himself is like, Rose, get back! Do you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, he's got a point. What's Mickey off to do?
He's going off to see his gran.
Yeah, who in our world, in the main timeline,
has died because she's blind.
Died 5 years earlier than this. Yeah,
because she tripped up on a bit of carpet that had come up that Mickey kept saying he was going to fix for her.
He never got around to
it, and she tripped and fell.
Which
is really sad.
So
that's quite gut-wrenching, that.
It is. So after finding out there's a curfew and all this stuff, which of course he's clueless about, he knocks on that door and his gran answers. Because at this point in this universe's timeline, she's fine. She's alive. And she's annoyed at him for those naughty friends he's hanging out with.
That she's not seen him for a few days.
Oh, God, when he spots the carpet.
Yeah.
And he's just like...
That's what I'm saying. That is gut-wrenching.
Noel Clarke, man. Noel Clarke. Then his friends he's been hanging out with come and collect him. Specifically, I want to get the names of the characters up.
But she calls him Ricky, and he's like, "No, it's Mickey."
Which is nice because they're sort of playing on the joke of last series. The Ninth Doctor always calling him Ricky because he's just so rude to him. It's like,
and he's like, "No,
Ricky,
it's
Mickey. No, it's Ricky. I think I remember my own name." You think you remember your own name? How stupid are you? God, he was such a dick to him. But to be fair, he was a dick to everybody. You say that
with such glee.
I love the Ninth Doctor. He's my favourite. Anyway, the point is...
Did you know, guys, that the Ninth Doctor is Christopher's favourite?
Did you know? Sorry, Tiny Tenant on the table. Try saying that 3 times fast. So, the wonderful Andrew Hayden Smith.
Sorry, Tiny Tenant on the table. Wait, what?
Yeah. The wonderful Andrew Hayden Smith. Do you know what our 6 degrees of separation are? Me and Andrew Hayden Smith? Jake in this.
Like a grove.
Yes. There's literally 1 degree of separation.
Is it Sam or
He
Mark?
was a CBBC presenter.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Was he?
Yes!
Not
right? That long before this as well.
Am I right, though, that he was in Biker Grove?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
There you go. And the excellent Helen Griffin as Mrs. Moore rock up and take Mickey away, looking for Ricky. They know that Cybers Industries is up to summit, and they're gathering their leader, London's most wanted, to complete a full-on assault at the Tyler estate during the party and find out what's going on. Until, of course, they bump into the actual Ricky, played by Noel Clarke, having a ball.
He plays it as like the evil twin.
Yeah, they go that route.
He eats that scenery.
Yeah.
Gobbles it up.
What am I doing here?
I regret using
What am I doing there?
It's his
Like,
face is like he's trying to be as
he's
evil
good
as
in so much, but it doesn't come across as cheesy. It comes across as like, oh, yeah, this is literally just Mickey's polar opposite. Like, what's happened in this world to make this Mickey or Ricky like this?
Yeah.
And then by episode 2, it's revealed that, oh no, he's not like this. It's all an act.
Yeah,
like, he's really trying hard to appear to be tough guy. Now, to be fair, the preachers, they are doing good work. They are trying to unearth a conspiracy in this company that, you know, as we find out, is bad and is going to lead to a lot of people getting hurt and dying.
Absolutely.
But he's also not London's most wanted. He's London's
Well, he is.
most wanted for parking tickets.
Parking tickets.
Which is great.
Which is still bad and you shouldn't do it.
Yeah, but it's hilarious that
It's
that's
so
the
funny.
outcome. So, long and the short, Rose and the Doctor don nifty tuxedos and waiting staff outfits and wait at the Tyler's party to learn the goss. Billy Piper... Right, Sean Dingwall is great as Pete, but he doesn't get as much emotional weight to play with in this one as he did in Father's Day.
Yeah.
Because he's not playing our Pete Tyler.
Yeah.
Now, he's brilliant in this, and he gets a moment at the very end of part 2 to really sort of play with something unusual, but it's only a moment, and Pete's reaction is absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
I love that Pete's reaction is, nope, don't
No,
worry,
no, it's horrible.
I'm going. It's. But I'm saying I love that from a storytelling point of view, because this is not her dad.
Yeah.
Like, it's
He's not a dad.
Her dad, in the past, in their last adventure, figured out what was happening and made the ultimate sacrifice for his future daughter.
Well,
this Pete is an absolute hero. This guy's always been a hero on the sly, it turns out. But he's still a dodgy businessman, and he still dodges responsibility. He dodges his own responsibilities. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, he's doing the right thing by leaking information on Lumic's operations. It turns out he's Gemini. He's the leak that all these rebels have been getting information from.
The mole.
He's the mole in the system. But personal responsibilities, it's not happening. Him and Jackie aren't making it work.
Yeah.
So they've had a quiet divorce about it. Well, they've separated about a year ago. The divorce is going through on the quiet, but they're keeping up public appearances.
Yeah.
And, you know, they never had a kid, even though they talked about it. Like, they just never got around to doing it. Which, of course, like Billy Piper... Because that's what I'm saying. Sean Dingwall does great. Camille Kajuri does great as alternate Jackie, who is just a git.
She's so mean.
She's not a monster, but she's... That softness is not there. Like, this is what happens when Jackie is just... Like, her ego's fed, and she hasn't got the responsibilities of family to...
Exactly, and it's...
Because I'm not saying... The female character has to have a child to then find meaning, but what I'm saying is, like, by being the single mum she was in the main universe, like, her compassion and everything triples.
Yeah, well, she has mum...
Yeah.
She has mum traits, obviously, because she's mum, but... And the same with Pete, is that they've not got that soft kind of thing in their life, the soft... emotional, squishy thing in their life of
connection
being
with their
parents.
child.
Yeah, you know, learning patience and things like that.
I mean, they have a dog called Rose, which is a great joke, resulting in Tennant's best shot in the whole two-parter, where he just starts pissing himself laughing because he can't help it.
That's really funny.
But Billy Piper carries the emotional weight of our main character arcs in this, because the Doctor's right. She shouldn't be getting emotionally invested in this Jackie and Pete.
Because they're not.
They're not her mum and dad.
Yeah.
And to do anything is to interfere. And there are several times in this where I'm like, Rose, shut up. Shut up. Stop talking to them. Shut up. But you completely understand why she's doing it. Do you know what I mean? If your mum and dad weren't together in your universe and it was a tragic thing, like, you know, separated by death or you know, messy divorce or anything, and you had a chance to see a version where they were together, you'd kind of want to have a peek at that.
Yeah.
Rose is just a bit too eager to have a peek at it up close. And it's like... And also, there's that whole thing of she's like, they never had a Rose. Like, they never had a daughter. Like, they're happy, but they're not with me.
Yeah.
And it's like, That doesn't say anything about who you are or what you did to their life, Rose.
Well, I think it does. I think it does because they are rich and successful, which is what they wanted, but they turned out to be horrible people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And having Rose,
well, as she then learns that, doesn't she?
Yeah.
She learns that they're not actually happy, and it's not because they're missing Rose per se, but that's definitely part of why they've gone the way they've gone.
But she said that's the only thing they're missing.
Yeah, true. What's John Lumick's plan, Boo?
He doesn't want to be dead, you know.
Well, he doesn't want his brain to deteriorate.
Well, yeah, because he's dying. He doesn't want to die.
Yeah.
So he wants. He's built these machines that will
call them what they are.
Cybermen.
Yeah, I mean that's what the Doctor calls them, and that's what we as the audience interpret them as. And they're made by Cybus Industries, so. So
he wants to make the human race better. So he is turning everybody into Cybermen.
That's his plan, and he's test running it on the homeless.
Exactly.
And eventually it's gonna be done to him too.
Yeah.
Roger Lloyd Pack is great because he's pitching this to the president and Pete as though they're obviously going to go, John, you've done it again. When do we get people signed up? And of course, their reaction is they don't even get far enough into the presentation before they sort of see where it's going.
Yeah.
And the president's just like, right, I'm just going to show this. Yeah, it's the whole like you're a brilliant man, John, but you're not God. Like Don Warrington is great in. I was going to say in this story, Don Warrington is great in Rise of the Cybermen because he doesn't make it to the Age of Steel.
Yeah.
But he's wonderful.
Really?
And his confrontation with the Cybermen when they storm the Tyler mansion is great. Like it's really, really good. Like you don't see him for long, and it's very easy, really, to play Prime Minister or President or whatever in a thing. Oh, you've been cast as a President of the United States in this drama. You're going to film for 2 days, and you've got like 3 scenes. Okay, sure. You know, you choose to like, I'm the President. Da da da.
I have a stern voice now.
Yeah. Whereas Don Warrington in this, you get a sense of exactly who he is, what his morals are, like why he's been elected, why he's good at his job, why Britain is thriving in this economy, and. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's a good man. His morals are what lead him. Which is why when he stands up to the Cybermen, it is so tragic that it results in his death. Yeah, the Doctor recognises them as Cybermen because he's like, it's happening a different way, but it's the same thing, essentially. And he alludes to the fact that there was a planet like Earth where to survive, they change themselves, and here it's happening differently, but it's the same thing.
What's
right
funny?
Down to the aesthetic, like the echoes of fate throughout the universe. Like aesthetically, they've got the handlebars on their heads, they're silver and metallic. These aren't the Cybermen we spent the last 2.5 years watching stories about.
Yeah,
but they are definitely a form of Cybermen. And I think they're the best way to interpret them in the 21st century. Because they really hammer in the emotionlessness, how blank they are, how too uniform they are, and how very quickly they go, everything has to be improved.
Yeah.
Everything has to become like us. Like, we are the best. Everything has to be like us. Like, it is the only way to survive. And if people disagree or fight back, then we just get rid of them. Or as they say in this, delete. Which becomes a catchphrase, which the Cybermen never really had.
No.
Well, one of them had a catchphrase.
Excellent.
But the rest of them didn't. And now, whether it was Russell and the team conceiving it, or whether it was Tom McRae wrote the scripts for this. Yeah, Tom McRae, whether it was Tom McRae writing it, the delete is a work of genius.
Yeah.
Because back in 2006... there was not a playground in the UK that didn't have that being mimicked by a kid the next day. Like, it was everywhere. Like, the Cybermen helmets were the toys you could pick up in Woolworths and Toys R Us. Like, it was a masterstroke.
Yeah.
Because it was, again,
that's cute.
Like the Daleks, they'd created something that, like, they'd created a playground villain. Do you know what I mean? It had things that it said and did and way it moved that kids would, like, when they were playing, they would do that. And right down to the walking and that horrid metallic when they're walking. What?
That's a really good impression of it.
Thanks.
It kind of scared me a little bit. I just did a little wee.
That scares you? What scares me is the fact that they're all in perfect formation at any one time. They're never not in perfect formation.
That would have taken a lot of practice.
Yeah, it would. Massive props to the suit performers.
100%. Oh god, it must have been hot in there.
Oh, I mean, including, of course, Paul Casey, who's like one of the primary creature performers for the show. And to Nick Briggs, who's returning to voice his third creature at this point, credited at least. He's the Nestine in Rose, and then he's the Daleks, and Dalek variants, and now he's the Cybermen. And it's great, because it's, it's very reminiscent of the Second Doctor's era, we are forming voices behind metal mouths, like that kind of really, you will become like us, but clearer, because it's an electric filter rather than a complete interference thing. And again, like the taking a leaf from the Daleks books, when the Cybermen talk, the mouths light up blue, which has actually become more prescient now that I think about it, because here we are with devices like
Bluetooth,
like home Google Nests and Alexas and stuff that have a ring light that lights up when they're talking, and it's like, how much of that has been influenced by stuff like this, or how much of it is just because these guys saw where tech was going, or imagined, oh yeah, they'd do that, wouldn't they?
If it ever comes a time where people get robots in the house, like full-on walking robots, to help assist things, count me out. 100%.
It's a shame. I'd get one, but I'd program it to play the Cybermen score by Murray Gold whenever they enter the room.
I'm being 100% serious.
Could you imagine? Could you imagine? You're just like, what a perfectly normal day when nothing's remotely scary. There's something from the door you hear. You hear ba 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 ba. Also, can we talk about the music? The Cybermen's theme and the themes in this story. Some of Murray Gold's best work in the show. So good and so distinct. So yeah, there's a lot that goes on in Age of Steel Part 2, but essentially people get brainwashed by their headphones, or they essentially get turned off by their headphones, and they just start all mindlessly walking toward Battersea Power Station, which is where the first wave of this is going to begin. Mr. Crane, obviously in the first episode, was very joyously and to the tune of The Lion Sleeps Tonight, letting homeless people get converted into Cybermen.
Oh, lovely.
We learn that in this iteration of the Cybermen, all that is salvaged, or at least all that is necessary for the Cybermen from a human component, is the brain. Different series have shown us different versions of that and what it looks like. But in this, ultimately, it's the brain's in there. And inside the Cybermen, inside the suit, because it is a suit, is a nervous system, an organic nervous system, or at least an approximation of one, so that when the brain is plugged in place, it pilots the mechanical suit. That's horrifying, and leads to a brilliant scene with Mrs. Moore and the Doctor, when they're, how tense is it when they're going down that corridor and there's just all of them just there, the ones that haven't been activated yet, just waiting.
Even though we watched this, many years ago, it still made me tense up. One of them's getting turned down.
It's such a simple trick as well, because that's all it is. It's like, one of them's going to move. One of them's going to move. This is like a theme park horror maze on the telly, and it's freaking me out.
It's like they knew what they were doing.
The bastards. But when they meet one of the Cybermen, and the Doctor finds out what's basically making them function, because he's like, this shouldn't be happening. The brain should be rejecting the process, until he finds that each of them have, and this is part of Lumic's genius. He obviously was preparing for this, and he knew that when this happens, it would horrify him.
Yeah.
Unless he dampened that, so they all have an emotional inhibitor built in. At this point in this version of the Cybermen's development, it's literally just like a motherboard, a chip that's inside the chess unit. The emotional inhibitor stops the brain from going insane from panic and fear as to what's going on.
Yeah.
The fact that it can't feel anything, physically. And so this Cyberman gets damaged by an EMP grenade, and it begins to remember who it is, and it's a woman who was getting married the next day and wants to know why she feels so cold, and she's worried about her husband seeing her before the wedding. And it's the most distressing thing ever, made all the more I mean, the Doctor, like, essentially mercy kills her, doesn't he? He shuts down the suit.
Yeah.
And then it's made even more disturbing when you realise that the only hope of stopping thousands, hundreds of thousands of people being converted today is to turn off the signal to the emotional inhibitors, like, to break the emotional inhibitors en masse, so that all the Cybermen that are currently made go insane and basically have an aneurysm and die from panic.
It's a kids' show.
Yeah, like, but that's what I love about this story, because the Cybermen are, when you think about them, horrific. Like, they're really scary.
Mm-hmm.
And they're done quite well in the 60s at that time. And then as the show goes on, they're more just one of the rogues gallery, so they don't really delve into the horror of it. We get a bit of it in Attack of the Cybermen.
Yeah.
With Lytton and him half converted and everything. Like, that's, I think, the last time where they really sort of dip a toe into it. The idea of how horrifying this really
quite
is.
Horrific.
Yeah. Here, they go all in. And it's great. I mean, the best version of the Cybermen really are the Borg from Star Trek The Next Generation, who, the creators have said are completely inspired by the Cybermen. Like, that's where it comes from. Someone in the comments, stop, you don't have to tell me about the IDW Star Trek Next Generation Doctor Who comic book crossover. I've got it, I've read it, thanks a bunch. Anyway, the point is, they really hone in on it here. And the idea that that's the thing that's going to save everyone, the Doctor has to take that step to save because essentially at this point they can't be converted back. Yeah. That's brilliantly done with the bit where Pete and Rose infiltrating the factory find the Cyberman that was Jackie.
Yeah.
That's horrifying.
Yeah.
And then the uniformity of this terrifying fate of a species that will get taken over by these things, when they walk further down the thing and they turn around and they can't even find which one was her. Because it's not important anymore. Like, she's not Jackie anymore. She's not
got an identity for herself.
Oh, it's so disturbing. So the fact that the plan basically is, the best we can do is stop everyone from this point being converted, which means having the rest of them all die, is... God, it's dark. But it's so good.
Yeah.
And the Cybermen notice that Lumic has not got long, and they're like, they force it. Well, he's okay, and you realise that he's that, touch on your point, he's that afraid of dying, that he's also afraid of going through the process ahead of his time. And it makes you wonder, when was he going to be emotionally ready for it? Do you know what I mean? Like, the mad tyrant who forces everybody to be part of his regime, and not once do you think that he actually would take the step himself, and take the plunge himself.
Well, it's his right-hand man who...
Mr. Crane,
ruins his plans.
Yeah, which is something I never questioned, ever, when I was younger. But the thing that hit me was, this video's been recorded in January of 2011, folks. Over December, lovely friend of ours, Will Carlisle, aka Mr. TARDIS, did Cybersember. I lent him a bunch of the DVDs for footage as well, because he was like, can I come around and just, I know we're in the middle of lockdown, but if you leave a bag outside your house, I was like, yeah, with these DVDs in it. I was like, yeah. Then we stood several metres apart, me in the doorway, and just had a big catch-up, which was lovely. That was like early lockdown 1, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So Will reviewed this 2-parter as part of that series, and he highlighted something, and it was only then I noticed it. Why does Mr. Crane betray John and try and kill him?
I don't know, because he's been through all the traumatic stuff.
He's been through traumatic stuff.
I know
he's whistled while he worked. He's bloody played Lion Sleeps Tonight.
Yeah.
He happily lured the homeless guys into the van for conversion. Where's the scene that shows Mr. Crane changing his mind? Like, the implication is he doesn't want to be one of those things. But he knew that was John's plan, right?
Yeah.
So, it feels like there was a scene needed. I'd love to ask Tom McRae if there was a scene at any point in any of the drafts with that, or even if there was a scene shot but then never edited because they dropped it for time. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, he tries to kill John, and then the Cybermen kill him, and they push him into conversion, giving us this universe's version of the Cyber Controller.
I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty badass.
Oh, it's freaking great design because it's the Cybermen design.
How would he get through doors though?
Well, he doesn't sit in that chair all the time. Remember, he unplugs himself and chases after him at the end. You can do it with that figure. You can unplug that figure and take it off the chair. Like it's.
Sorry, I had a dim moment then. Resume.
But what's kind of nice is the Cyber Control. Like they keep the brain showing aesthetic from the classic series, and also they. No, that was the Cyber Leader.
Well, close.
Cyber Control is the one in Tomb of the Cybermen.
Yeah, I know.
And then the same one apparently, or definitely the same actor in Attack of the Cybermen.
Who's the only one that's doing like robot movements and nobody else is.
And also has, bless him, a paunch.
Oh yeah, because.
To be fair, I'm not surprised you don't remember Attack of the Cybermen immediately coming to mind, because every time you think of it, your brain's conditioned to just hear meow 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 meow. I love that story. It's not great, but I love it. But bubble wrap aliens being like, yes, hello. Anyway.
Yeah, zoned out episode.
Right now, a very angry one. Anyway,
they look cool. Those ice crystal-y people.
I don't know what they're called now, it's slipping my mind. But the point is, John Lumic undergoes a transformation, and we get a brilliant sort of turn from the Doctor, who knows that Mickey and Jake are up on the... Because Ricky gets killed, and Noel Clarke plays that so well, because it's a Luke seeing his aunt and uncle's corpse moment. They just hold on his face.
Yeah.
And his reaction, and he kind of looks down at Ricky, looks up at the Cybermen, steals himself, and gets out of there. And you can just sort of like, what would it be like to watch effectively yourself die in front of you? What a great, horrid idea. Hope the kids are enjoying it. It's brilliant. And Noel Clarke plays it so well. They infiltrate the signal through the Doctor giving all these like hidden hints through the CCTV because he knows they're watching. That scene is constructed so well. Because what they do is they turn off the transmission so that the earpieces like falter.
Yeah.
So everybody who's under remote control can snap out of it.
Yeah.
And then they also help the Doctor plug in the signal that will disrupt and kill the emotional inhibitors.
That's a great scene.
Mrs. Moore loses her life during all this, which is horrible. But they get to the point where they're fleeing, like Mickey and Jake. Mickey just taking the initiative, starts piloting the Zeppelin. And they drop a rope, because literally there's got to be some way to get down to him, and they just find a rope ladder. He's like, right, go, let's do it, and drops it down. So the Doctor, Rose and Pete, like it's the roof, and Lumic follows them. Lumic bloody follows them. The scene where the Doctor, just before the codes and all this stuff, the scene with the Doctor confronting Lumic is brilliant because it's
so good.
It's the Doctor that we've known for the last 20 plus years.
Yeah.
Having a chance to possibly stop the Cybermen at their inception.
Mm-hmm.
He can't do it in his universe because
it's
already happened.
Yeah.
But here he has a chance to stop it happening on this parallel Earth. And by basically just beating Lumic into submission with an argument and being like, just think about it. Like, what the hell is it for? Like, when you're done, what next? Like, what was the point? And think of think of what you've kept, but think of everything you've lost.
Yeah.
And really hammering home the fact that, like, emotion is not a weakness. And Lumic just won't have it, so much so that even after all the Cybermen are destroyed, he's an independent unit. You look at the absolute unit size of this lad.
I know, what a unit.
He storms after the blimp. And he's climbing up the ladder, and it's really creepy. And then Pete uses the sonic screwdriver to, I guess, untangle the fibres of the rope. It's not made clear.
No.
But he does it. And we get a really cool shot of the power station blowing up from above as the Cyber Controller plummets to its death. That is so cool.
It is cool.
How does our story end, sweet lady?
It ends with the TARDIS eventually being recharged.
It's ready.
And they're getting ready to go off, and Mickey decides to stay because he doesn't really have anything apart from Rose back.
And he doesn't really have her, does he?
Exactly, back in their universe.
Because like he says, like, we had a thing once, but not anymore.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
Because you got a new thing, but
I've got to find something for me, essentially. Sorry. And he, in this universe, he's got a purpose. Like,
his grand's alive.
He can stop the other waves of Cybermen across the world.
Well, yeah, because it's sort of preemptive, isn't it? It's like, they think it's dumb, but Lumic had factories and he was preparing for mass production.
Yeah.
So let's go shut the factories down.
Exactly.
And as we learn later on in the series, they're joined by Pete, who does the same thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, what do you think about Mickey's final scene? Because I think Billy's great in it, but it's Noel Clarke.
Yeah.
Like, it's just...
At first I thought, why? Why is he doing this? Why is it... That's such a rush decision. And then, as they were talking, it was like, oh no, he's sacrificing everything he's got in their universe to help this universe.
Yeah, which also, like, isn't very much. He sees the opportunity to be more here.
Something, yeah. To not be a tin robot.
Tin dog. Yeah.
Tin dog, yeah.
Not be the tin dog. And the Doctor, like, sees it and respects the decision, and in a way that doesn't feel like he's just going, oh yeah, get rid of the competition. He's just sort of like, yeah. And Mickey the idiot. And it's great. It's a brilliant sign-off. And if this had been his last appearance... it would be a brilliant way to say bye.
Yeah, definitely.
As it happens, it's not cheapened by what comes later.
No.
But we'll get to that because we're not meant to know about that in this chronology. So Yarb, like, Mickey's off. He's gone.
He's gone.
He's only gone and gone. So they bob off.
And she's
Oh, what's the last scene of the episode?
Rose is, like, devastated that Jackie didn't make it, even though she wasn't her mum.
Yeah, and also has to break the news to Jackie that Mickey's not coming back.
Yeah. Which
does get played on in this series.
Mm.
A certain infamous episode plays on the fact that she is literally alone.
Yeah.
And it's one of the reasons why I hate the fact people hate that episode, because that is some good shit. But we'll get to that.
And yeah, she goes back and she just wants a mum, and I think that's really relatable.
Yeah.
Like, you've seen a trauma. I mean, God's sake.
She even tries to get Pete to come back. Like, the notion that they're from somewhere where Jackie Tyler is alive, and there isn't a Pete Tyler, and she just... The moment she flat out reveals to him that she's his daughter, he goes, no, I can't do this.
He nopes out of there. But...
Because it's not her Pete.
No.
And you get it. You completely understand why he's like, no. Like, no, do you know what I mean? It's like all the things that have happened to him,
he's never been
all the things that have happened to him in that last day. He's lost. Like, he and his wife are separated, but you can still see that they care for each other.
Yeah.
And he's lost her.
Yeah. And
his boss, who he's been leaking information about for ages anyway, because Cybus owns shares of his company and everything, Vitek. Like, his boss just did this horrible thing. There's got to be cleanup. It needs to be helped. Like, people need to be helped, and he's like, no. Like, you almost get why he's like, how... He didn't say it, but it's like, how dare you? Like, no. Don't do that. But also, he would go with her if he thought about it for more than a minute.
Mm. Yeah.
But it's not necessarily the right thing to do. So Pete is in the right, ultimately, with choosing not to entertain this and go with it and listen. Doesn't mean that this alternate world Pete doesn't have a happy ending later. Because here's the thing. This universe is dubbed sort of affectionately within the canon Pete's World. Yeah. Which I quite like. So,
that sounds like a really disappointing theme park.
I know, right? But I love that. It's so simple. Growing up, I guess I always just thought this story was, it's alright. I actually think this is a really good Cyberman story. And I think it's a really good two-parter as well. I appreciate this more with age.
Right.
And I think that might come from the fact that I the Cybermen don't do anything significant or interesting to me after this story. Like, end of this series, yes, sure, great. But they're only half of the equation as to why the end of this series works well.
Yeah.
They have some interesting stories going forward, but I think this one sums up the horror and the brilliance of the concept of the Cybermen that the classic series gave us and then kind of forgot. This is a reclaiming of the 60s iteration of the Cybermen.
Yeah.
With a very modern design. 2 years before the Iron Man movie comes out, giving us a very Stark Tech-like design for these bad boys. They make great toys as well. They make really good toys.
They do.
I like it a lot. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, it's not my favourite. It was alright. It was a bit of a slug.
Bit of a slug?
Sorry, slug.
Slug. Were you watching Vengeance on Varos? or most 5th, 6th Doctor stories where there were so many slugs in that era.
I know, God, somebody really hates slugs. Yeah, for me, it was just a bit of a slog, I thought. It didn't feel like anything special.
Oh, well, you're wrong.
Wow.
I'm kidding.
I just thought, like, the Mickey storyline was great, but the Rose storyline, we've already seen it.
Well, yeah and no. I think it being down to Pete was what made it different this time. Like, it wasn't about finally meeting this man that she wished she could have spent more time with. It was about meeting a man who doesn't know anything about her or never considered her, really. Do you know what I mean? We were seeing a different take on it. But I get it, because you kind of had to recap that to give the mirror to Mickey's situation, because it's like both of them here are looking at an alternate life that they could have or would have been a part of. The temptation of it. So, you know, I see what you mean. You could have lost the Pete Tyler, Rose Tyler, Jackie Tyler plot line and had the Mickey one and it still work.
Yeah.
But I don't mind because of what it's in service of later in the series, you know what I mean? Like, I think it's worth it for that.
Okay.
Because think about how her story ends later this year.
Yeah.
But I know what you mean. So I really enjoy this. Lou thought it was fine.
It was fine, yeah.
I enjoy Girl in the Fireplace. Lou
Love
really
it.
loves Girl in the Fireplace. Coming up next, in the next video, we're going to be talking about 4 episodes, 3 stories in total. We're talking about The Idiot's Lantern,
Yay.
which I think we both have a huge soft spot for.
Yep.
We're talking about, quite possibly, the best 2-parter of the modern era still to this day, really.
Yeah.
The Impossible Planet and the Satan Pit, which I cannot wait to watch again. And also the most divisive episode of Modern Who for a lot of people up until, you know, sort of toward the end of Moffat's era, where like every other series is an episode that pisses people off for some reason. And an episode I think does not deserve the hate that it gets. Love and Monsters. We'll be talking about those 4 next time. But in the meantime, what do you think of the Cybermen's return in the modern era? What do you think of Girl in the Fireplace? Tell us in the comments!
What do you think of my foot?
Don't ask the internet to comment on that. You don't want to know what the comment section's going to look like.
Oh, sorry, David. Having a little wobble.
Right, just for that, you're going to have to press stop record because I've got the dog sleeping on my leg. Get up and press it! Get up and press
Which one?
Lazy so-and-so.
What are we doing this one?
Bye!
Bye.